Good morning, grandkids. Let's see what I can do with this today. Now, just like last week, I can see me on the whole screen, but when I uploaded it, it didn't show the whole screen. It showed the game cam down in the corner, but I looked at myself while I was reading, so I don't know what happened. So let's hope it's on there this time. This is chapter 18 and 19 of the book I'm writing, The Listener, based on my old series, The Listener. This is chapter 18 and 19. Night was settling in on the way to Markarth. A few stars were out and about, and the weather was mild. Probably would get colder as I got closer to the city and the mountains. The traveling was mostly uneventful. I walked through the gates of Markarth and went in search of Hag's Inn, a ridiculous-sounding name if there ever was one. I walked into the shop, which smelled of sweet and exotic herbs and the musky smell of various mushrooms. I walked over to a young woman and asked if she was Mary. She looked at me and seemed a little surprised and flustered. I wasn't taken aback at her surprise, as I imagine that most wonder if their carrying on through a sacrament ritual is really heard or not. But being flustered, I hoped that didn't mean she was rethinking this. I asked what she wanted of me, and as she put it, I want Elaine Dufont dead, murdered like the dog he is. Sounds like another woman is involved to me. I asked if she knew where I might find him. Probably in some old ruins called Ralbathar, she said. It's near Windhelm. They stage their bandit raids from there. I thought she was a person with very strange priorities. She wanted someone dead because he was a bandit, but she could deal in murder. Okay, who am I to quibble? But I still thought it was another woman, you know? No fury like a woman scorned and all that. Then she sort of confirmed the suspicions by a secondary contract that she offered to pay for herself. I asked her what this would be for. I want you to also kill Nilsine Shattershield in Windhelm. Good grief, I thought. That's clear on the other side of the map. Of course I asked her why, then almost wished I hadn't. She is the surviving daughter and my good friend of the Shatterfield family. They also treated me as a daughter, an older daughter, just recently died, and I was sitting in a bar drinking and mourning her death. This man, Elaine, sat down and we started talking about the family, the death, and also how rich they are. Then, I guess, is when he hatched his plan to come on to me so that he could get into the inner circle of the family and rob them blind. So, did more happen than that? I asked her, shaking my head in a show of sympathy. But what I thought was that she was a scatterbrained nut job. Maybe she should meet Cicero. She went on, now they think, since I introduced him to the family, that I was part of his plans. Now they won't have anything to do with me. But why kill Nilsine, your friend? I asked her. But she came back with some ridiculous theory based on you hurt me so I hurt you back, or some such nonsense. She really was not all there. She said that if Nilsine died, maybe they would realize what they lost by throwing her away like they did. Well, I couldn't understand such reasoning, but the guild did need the contract, so I would kill Elaine, the bandit. But I wasn't going to touch Nilsine. This Mary was unhinged. I went and got a room at the local inn and ordered some food and drink, rented a room, and settled down at the table in the room. Here I am writing all this nonsense down, either to get it out of my head or for someone to read, though I don't know why anyone would. Besides, you may think I'm as nuts as Mary, and maybe I am. Tomorrow I'll set out for this Rathbeldar, whatever that is, in search of Elaine Dufon. I started up the road along the river from the Windhelm stables, knowing that this Ralbathar Dwemer ruins was high up in the mountains somewhere on my left. The trick was going to find a passage up to there. When I came to the bridge that crosses over the river to a mill, I kept on going upward. By the time I got to an upriver waterfall, the road had become only a snowy, curved path. After a while, the path was no longer discernible, and I knew I'd have to find my own way, wading through the snow and pines. Finally, I came to a split in the narrow clearing I was following. Now which way, I wondered. I made a guess and went left. The open, snow-covered passage made its twisting, turning way up through the rocks and pine trees, but always upward toward my goal. As I topped one snowy ridge, there stood a wolf eyeing me, silhouetted against the blue sky. A beautiful sight, really. A shame to kill him, but he was hungry, and he attacked. As I continued on over the hilltop, I saw Ralbathar. I hate to say that word. I can't pronounce it. As I continued on over the hilltop, I saw Ralbathar. Its ruins spread all down the mountainside. Where in all of that would I find an entrance? There were many steps up to the top domed structure. Tumbled ruins collapsed on either sides. Farther down, more steps, and other still standing ruins. I found the entrance, and when I opened the big brass doors, the first thing that caught my attention were flames shooting back and forth in a doorway leading to the main rooms. To my left lay a man sleeping on the floor. Probably a bandit left to guard the entrance, but against all reason I hoped it was Elaine. I did not relish trying to get through that fire. But of course it wasn't. To his left was a passage that could possibly bypass that fiery doorway. I knocked an arrow and fired into the man on the floor. He let out a grunt, but I don't think he even woke. I turned down the passage beside him, but felt that this was not leading me to my goal. I went back and approached the fiery door. I watched for a bit and saw the rhythm of its blasts. There was always a second or two between each, giving me time to get through if I was quick. I waited for that short pause and hurried through. Well, I got scorched, but that's better than set on fire. Once through the flames, there was a gate straight ahead, and I could see through it. Chairs around a fire. 2 men were sitting there, and one was standing back a ways. Of course, I had to unlock the gate. As soon as I was through, I dropped in to sneak, but they had heard the noise. The 2 bandits jumped off their chairs, drawing their swords. I backed up into the doorway, drawing my daggers. I let them come to me. I took them both out one at a time. One of them had backed up a bit, using his bow, and managed to slice my upper arm with the edge of an arrow as it went past me. Then there was one. He still stood there, behind the fire, waiting, as if he would talk to me. I knew this was Elaine. And I know there was no time for palaver. I had a job to do. I sheathed my daggers, took hold of my bow. He hadn't moved. Did this guy have a death wish or something? I knocked an arrow and pointed it at the center of his chest. Waited a second to see what he would do. He didn't move. I fired and dropped him to the floor, dead instantly. Maybe he was as nuts as Murray was. I walked over to his body and searched him. I didn't search much because my arm was bleeding and I wanted to take care of it. I thought he was dressed mighty fancy for a bandit. What I found was a key to the rest of this place, which was a good find. At some future time, I could come back and loot this whole ruin. But before I left, I relaxed by the warm fire, took a healing potion and bandaged my arm, which was barely sliced, just a flesh wound. I then relaxed a bit, drank a mead, before heading back out into the world. I walked down out of the mountains to Windhelm and hired a carriage back to Markarth. It was night before I checked out the hag's cure anyway. Murray wasn't there, but the hag inside, I guess that's who it was named after, threw me out, screaming that I didn't belong there. I told her that if the shop was closed, she should lock the door. I scurried over to the Silverblood Inn to have a drink and some food, maybe rent a room. I might catch the girl at the shop in the morning. I walked into a room full of people. They were really busy tonight. I walked toward the bar, and there she sat. I took a stool beside her, ordered a drink, and looked at her. "Is the deed done?" she asked. "Indeed it is," I said, telling her how simple it was. "Good," she said. "He got what he deserved. What about Nelsine?" "I decided not to take your contract on her. She is totally innocent, and I won't kill her," I said. "Well," she said, looking me straight in the eye, "suit yourself, but I will have her dead. There are others I can hire to kill her, and I will." She gave me my payment for killing Elaine, got up and flounced out. She wasn't liking me too much right then, as if I cared. I was really hungry, so I ordered another drink with some salmon and baked potatoes and a sweet roll. Also went to my room for the night. I tipped the barmaid to bring everything to my room. And here I sit, enjoying my dinner, trying to write down all that has happened since last I wrote in this journal. I actually feel a little bad about Nelsine, who had done nothing wrong, knowing that even though I had spared her life, she was going to die anyway. Maybe I should have taken the contract then and gotten the payment myself. I guess this is the reason the Brotherhood doesn't give you the reason behind a contract. They don't want you to independently weigh the pros and cons just to do the job. So that's the end of those chapters this time, grandkids. Sorry I had a hard time getting through that. Sometimes I can't read my own writing. And I've done a rewrite of most of this as I've gone along, and I've edited some things before I start reading to you, but I haven't typed them up in manuscript form yet. So I have some places in there that I have to correct or add a word in or something that made me stumble because it wasn't there. So I will see you in the next reading, grandkids, and thank you for being here with me. Bye-bye.